Tonight, justice for Claire. The family of Claire Levesque, who was murdered by her ex-boyfriend Aaron Pearson in Shetland last year, speak of their grief.
Today we were able to get justice for Claire and hopefully start a new path in helping other victims suffering from domestic violence.
Pearson has been sentenced to life in prison. Also tonight, a retired teacher has been convicted of the historical abuse of vulnerable children at a former residential school in Angus. Survivors say their fight for recognition and an apology is only just beginning. The energy firm behind the Rosebank field say the effects of burning oil from the development will not be significant. Environmental campaigners hit out with the comments. And in sport, Tony Doherty is looking for Ross County to keep climbing the table after moving out of the relegation places at the weekend. Good evening, I'm Norman MacLeod and this is the STV News at 6, live from Aberdeen. A man who killed his girlfriend in a hot tub in Shetland has been sentenced to life in prison and will serve a minimum of 25 years. Aaron Pearson was found guilty of murdering Claire Levesque at his mother's home in Sandnes last year. The trial heard that Miss Levesque was stabbed at least 26 times. Passing sentence, Lord Arthritis described the murder as a crime of exceptional depravity. Speaking outside the High Court in Edinburgh, the Levesque family said they got justice for Claire. A warning people may find some of the details of Gráinne Griachan's report distressing.
Claire Levesque moved to Shetland from Canada in 2023. She'd been living with her partner Aaron Pearson at his mother's home in Sandnes, and it was here that she was killed. On the 11th of February last year, Pearson murdered Claire Levesque in a hot tub at the property. The 24-year-old had been stabbed at least 26 times.
Hi, my name is Aaron Pearson.
Who are you?
I just killed my girlfriend in a hot tub in the garage at Ringville, the Annex, Sandnes.
What's your
Shetland.
girlfriend's name?
Claire Levesque.
This was the call Aaron Pearson made to emergency services on that night. But during the trial, Pearson said Miss Levesque had stabbed herself with a knife. But today, a jury found Aaron Pearson unanimously guilty of Claire Levesque's murder. Pearson was given a life sentence with a minimum of 25 years.
Miss Levesque died a squalid death of quite unimaginable, multifaceted violence, including in particular severe and frenzied instrumental violence, all at your hands. This was a sustained episode of feral butchery.
Claire Levesque had been repeatedly struck on the head, neck and body with knives. Before officers arrived to the house, Pearson fled the scene and deliberately drove his car into the sea. He was then arrested by police. Today, Claire Levesque's family spoke outside court about the shadow now cast over their family since her death.
Today we were able to get justice for Claire and hopefully start a new path in helping other victims suffering from domestic violence and being able to move forward and come forward. Claire was so isolated in Shetland, but she met a few people there and she made a great impression. She was such a bubbly, fun girl who brought life to every room that she walked into.
Police described the violence inflicted by Pearson as truly horrifying and say many people's thoughts across Shetland will be with the Levesque family and friends.
The extreme levels of violence shown by Aaron Pearson, it's indicative of the wider problem of violence against women and girls in our society. Police Scotland's absolutely committed, with our partners, to eradicating all forms of gender-based violence and violence against women and girls. It cannot continue.
Tonight, Aaron Pearson will begin his life sentence for Claire Levesque's murder. Her family said justice has now been served. Gráinne Griachan, STV News.
A retired teacher has been convicted of the historical abuse of vulnerable children at a former residential school in Angus. Patricia Robertson force-fed, hit, shouted at, punched and kicked children at Fornethy House. She denied all 25 charges but was found guilty of 18 of them. Survivors of the abuse say the fight for recognition and an apology is only just beginning. Ollie Dickinson was in court.
Justice after fighting for more than 5 decades. These women were all sent to Llanelli House in rural Angus as vulnerable children, but instead of finding care and support, they were horrifically abused by a woman who was supposed to be looking after them, Patricia Robertson, or Patricia Baxter, as she was then known. For most of their childhood and all of their adult lives, they have fought to be believed. Today, a jury did.
It means everything. I've waited 51 years for this. Just to see justice and for people to believe us. This fight has went on far too long, and we are just so grateful to get justice today.
It means the world. It means we've actually been believed, because for this long nobody was listening to us, and it's took all these years for it to get to court. It's had a big impact on me. 50 years this has been hanging over my head, and it's just good to finally be believed.
Kelly was abused when she was just 5 years old by Patricia Robertson. She was force-fed, had her head hit against a desk and was dragged by her hair.
I am an adult now. She held no horrors anymore for me, but you're back there. When you look at her, you're right back there being a wee child again. But today is victory. Victory.
Patricia Robertson had denied all the charges. She left court showing no remorse and offering no apology.
Ms. Robertson, do you have anything to say to the women that you abused as young girls? Do you have any apology to make to the victims of your abuse? Do you have anything to say to women that you abused, women that you shouted out, women that you assaulted as young, vulnerable girls? Do you have any regrets over your actions at all?
Hundreds more women say they were abused at Llanelli by others working there. For them, their fight for justice goes on.
We're ready and waiting for
Listen
it now.
up, yep, and do the right thing.
And we're never going to wait till we get a public apology. It was a scandal what happened to us. Girls from 5 to 11, and this is our story just getting told now.
Patricia Robertson will be sentenced in December. Ollie Dickinson, STV News at the High Court in Glasgow.
The energy firm behind the proposed Rosebank field off Shetland say the effects of burning oil from the development on the climate will not be significant. Equinor was told to resubmit its environmental assessment for the field after a court ruled earlier this year consent for the development was unlawful. Stephen is live at Aberdeen Harbour for us this evening. Stephen, while the company claims it won't be significant, environmental campaigners are far from agreement with them.
Yeah, perhaps that comes as little surprise, but they, along with many others, have been waiting since January to see what is in this updated environmental assessment, because it was back then that the Court of Session ruled that the granting of the consenting of the licence of Rosebank, along with another field, Jackdaw, were unlawful because they didn't take into account what are known as Scope 3 emissions. Now, those, to put very simply, are emissions that are created when the oil and gas that's extracted from the fields is burnt, so for example in heating our homes. That meant Equinor had to go away, update that environmental assessment, then resubmit it and hope to get full consent for Rosebank. That has now been published. In it, Equinor suggests that the total Scope 3 emissions from Rosebank could be around 250 million tonnes. Now, that is if there's a high level of production from this field and if all the oil was burnt. They say that is obviously global and over the lifespan of the field as well. Equinor argued that because it's globally, they don't think it will be against the Paris Climate Agreement, and therefore they say they don't think it would have a significant impact on the climate or the environment. As you can imagine, campaigners very much in disagreement to that, and one of the two groups that took that court case against those consenting of those two fields says that Rosebank shouldn't get the go-ahead.
It's the largest undeveloped field. It would create massive carbon emissions equivalent to running 56 coal-fired power plants for a year. And as we've seen in Scotland with the biggest wildfire on record, water scarcity in April, we're already in a climate crisis. We just cannot afford to continue to adding fuel to that fire.
And Stephen, just explain what happens now.
Well, it now goes to a public consultation that will run to around mid to end of November. Now, Equinor argue that Rosebank will be important for energy security, for jobs and for the wider economy. But ultimately, it will be up to the regulator and to the UK government to decide whether or not Rosebank will get the go-ahead. This is a delicate and finely balanced decision that has to be made. Of course, you have the climate targets and the climate ambitions, but at the same time, you do have those arguments over energy security, jobs and the economy too.
Stephen, many thanks. Well, staying with the energy sector, and Offshore Energies UK has released an open letter calling on the UK government to implement a permanent tax regime from 2026. The letter is co-signed by more than 110 companies, as OE UK says the windfall tax is being felt by the entire sector. Well, joining us now is Katie Heidenreich from OE UK. Katie, thank you for joining us. First of all, can you give a reaction to the news we just heard about the Rosebank field?
The environmental impact statement published today is a necessary part of responsible homegrown production. The process is working and it needs to be allowed to run its course. Homegrown production is an essential part of energy security for the UK. We have a supply chain that relies on revenues from oil and gas to sustain their expansion into new energy sectors.
And moving on to the Energy Profits Levy, how damaging do you think it is?
The Energy Profits Levy simply isn't working. The UK is not the best place to do business for supply chain companies. The company signing the letter, the open letter that we sent to Chris MacDonald, sets out that over a year ago, we wrote a similar letter, and since then, thousands of jobs have been lost. We can stop this unnecessary loss of jobs by introducing a reformed, permanent mechanism.
So do you think the government and the Chancellor will listen to you?
We continue to have excellent engagement with the government, but what we need to see is urgent action. We need to see the Energy Profits Levy reformed and replaced with a permanent competitive mechanism that ensures that the UK is the best place for supply chain companies to do business.
But the levy is in place to help people pay their electricity bills. Surely, at a time when people are struggling, the levy is a good thing.
Our sector is proud to pay its taxes, but the reality is that we are in a global competition for investment. We want to continue to pay our taxes, but we want to see investment unlocked. The reality is that 9 out of 10 supply chain companies are turning overseas to fill their order books. We need to stop that. By reforming the Energy Profits Levy, the sector will continue to pay taxes. We are proud to pay those taxes, but what we want to see is more investment unlocked, more business for companies to keep them anchored here in the UK, and what the government will see in return is more taxes paid by the sector.
OK. Katie Heidenreich, thank you for joining us. Well, as you heard there, efforts have been made to reduce energy bills with the levy, but household energy debt has hit an 8-year high, with the average home now owing more than £220. The latest figures show the amount customers owe their supplier has increased by nearly 30% in the past year. Hayley joins me now in the studio. Hayley, this comes as the bosses of the big 6 firms were being quizzed by MPs today.
They certainly were quizzed today, Norman, about a broad range of things. And as we get into the colder months, this is very much a hot topic. Many asking how much higher can bills get? And today, latest figures from USwitch show 3.5 million households owe money to their energy supplier. Combined, they owe a total of £780 million, and that is an 8-year high and up nearly 50% from last year. Now, the average household debt is sitting at just over £220, and at the start of this month, the energy price cap went up by 2%, but over the last 5 years, it has really gone up by more than that. It used to be that figure, now it's this today, up nearly 70%. So perhaps an increasing number of people are struggling with their bills, but the big question is, how do we fix this? Today, MPs put that question to the UK's main energy suppliers.
What should government be doing, and how can you help them? Government should be looking at to take gas out of the wholesale market, put it into a strategic reserve. I think that needs very serious and urgent consideration. If we continue on the path that we're on right now, in all likelihood, electricity prices for a typical customer are going to be 20% higher in 4 or 5 years' time than they are now.
Now, this is a complex issue, and the committee discussed a broad range of things today. What currently makes up our energy bill, and how can we better insulate our homes? Around 1 in 10, or just over that, say that they can't afford to pay off their debt, and that has doubled since last year too. We spoke to people in Aberdeen today who said something must be done now to bring down bills.
If you're looking into the future, the population's getting big. You're going to have to find ways of making living affordable for as many people as possible.
It's just a substantial amount of your budget is now used for your heating.
I would say they're quite high and definitely rising as well.
I did put it on once last week just to make sure it was still working. But, I don't use it just to keep the cost down. And I live on my own, so there's no family. If I want a heat, I go out to my sister or something.
So the debate is important, but so is the action. That is something that those we spoke to today, as well as those at the Westminster Committee, both agree on, and something that charities warn must happen sooner rather than later, or else risk pushing thousands more people into debt. Norman.
Hayley, many thanks. PPE MedPro, the company linked to Scottish businesswoman Michelle Mone, has not met the 4 p.m. deadline to pay back almost £122 million to the UK government. The company was successfully sued by the Department for Health and Social Care for breaching a contract to supply surgical gowns during the coronavirus pandemic. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, says the government will pursue PPE MedPro with everything we've got to get the funds back. It's a debilitating daily struggle that affects 1 in 3 people in Scotland. But many suffering from arthritis say they're unsupported and unable to work. Arthritis UK say long delays for diagnosis and a lack of treatment options has led to a ticking time bomb. Lynn Rankin spoke to one woman in Dundee who's struggling with the condition.
The kind of actual impact of arthritis is my hands are really weak. Struggle opening jars, cutting, things like that, which kind of impacts all kind of day-to-day life.
Amy was diagnosed with inflammatory arthritis 3 years ago. She's studying at Dundee University to become a doctor, where she's supported with her symptoms.
Uni have been really good with me actually about kind of extra time for exams and just generally knowing that I might not be there every day, like if I've got appointments, blood tests or whatever, and got things in place if I need like different equipment to hold things or whatever. So that's been really helpful.
But others feel less supported. More than half of people with arthritis in Scotland said the condition affected their ability to work. 40% had given up their job, while 62% say they live in pain all or most of the time, and more than a third felt their condition was not well managed. Arthritis affects 1 in 3 people in Scotland and is a leading cause of disability. A new report from Arthritis UK says people suffering with the condition face widespread challenges accessing treatment and support, and also face difficulties being diagnosed. They are calling on the Scottish Government to do more and take further action to avoid any further harm. In a statement, Public Health Minister Jenny Minto said more than £110 million is being spent this year to give patients faster access to treatment. And there is record levels of investment in medical training, including expertise in arthritis. The condition is often seen as an inevitable part of ageing, but Amy says she is proof it can happen to anyone at any age.
Young people do get arthritis, young people do get joint pain, and not kind of thinking that I'm weird or making it up or exaggerating or whatever, because I think it's just that awareness that it can happen to anybody at any age.
For Amy and others suffering from the daily grind of painful swelling and stiffness of joints, they simply want a future free of arthritis. Lynn Rankin, STV News.
Plans for a crematorium on farmland on the outskirts of Dundee are being heard by Scotland's highest civil court for a second time. Angus Council has twice provided planning permission for a facility near Duntroon. Despite local fears, the area's roads would not be able to handle increased traffic. A verdict by the Court of Session is expected to take at least 3 months.
We had over 780 objections lodged to this proposal for a crematorium in this site, which is on the fringe of Angus. And our main objection points are really the unsuitability of the local roads. This is an unclassified road that we're standing by, or so C-class here, unclassified down the bottom.
Well, that takes us to the sport now with Findlay.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Yes, good evening. First to Dingwall, and Ross County boss Tony Docherty is looking for his side to keep climbing the table after moving out of the relegation places at the weekend. Well, the Staggies did well to hold league leaders St Johnstone to a goalless draw on Saturday, but it only gets marginally easier this weekend as they travel to second-placed Partick Thistle. It wasn't a classic on Saturday as the pre-season title favourites played out a 0-0 draw, but it was a good point for the Staggies, making it 3 unbeaten. This weekend, as the saying goes, it's Fir Hill for thrills, but all Tony Docherty's interested in is climbing the table.
It's just important we focus game by game at the moment, and we've now gathered a bit of momentum. You know, our last 3 games we've taken 5 points out of 9, which is 2 away draws and a home win. And that's the kind of momentum that I'm looking for, you know, and whereas having 2 clean sheets, you know, in that 3 performance run as well is very pleasing, and it gives us a platform to go and turn these 1 point into 3 points.
Loan signing Trevor Carson has played a key part in County's resurgence. This save on debut, the pick of the bunch. But at the other end of the pitch, it's been more of a struggle. Striker Jordan White has linked up well with talisman Ronan Hale at times this season, but admits he's frustrated by a lack of minutes.
I want to always be on the pitch because I know what I can do and I know what I've done for the club, but listen, I'm not going to get my head down, I'm just going to keep working hard. That's what I've always done all my career, so that's all I can do, and when I get the chance, try and prove why I should be playing. I think if you know you're going to keep a clean sheet, you know that it only takes 1 goal to win the game then. Obviously you can't always do that, but it gives us a good platform to build on, and I think the last 2 games we've looked pretty solid in terms of that, and hopefully we can start getting more goals and getting more points on the board.
A trip to Maryhill awaits the Staggies this Saturday. County have lost 3-1 to the Jags twice already this season, who themselves come into the game off the back of a hard-earned away draw.
A good team, Partick Thistle. I like the way they play. Watched the most recent game there against Morton. I thought they performed really well. Managed to get a point, but probably deserved. I think Mark and Alec would say they probably deserve to take the 3 points. So we know it's going to be a tough task. Like every game in this division, there's not an easy game, but there's certain strengths that Partick Thistle have got, but there's also certain weaknesses that they've got that we've been working on in terms of us executing our game plan this week. So it'll be difficult. The fact that we're away from home, you know, we'll need to be at our best in terms of out of possession, and we'll need to do a little bit better than we did against St Johnstone in possession.
Yeah, big game this weekend. Now, as the dust settles on what was a successful international break, Kieran Bowie says he's more determined than ever to get back into the Scotland squad for next month's crucial double-header. Well, the Hibs striker has scored 4 goals so far this season, and after making his international debut on Sunday, he says Scotland are still in a good position to qualify for next year's World Cup.
I mean, obviously when you're young, all you want to do is play for your country or play for your club. But no, I mean, just trying to get as many minutes as I can and try to do what I can at club level to try and show the gaffer here what I can do. I mean, at the end of the day, the aim is to qualify for the World Cup, and we've got 6 points out of 6 for this camp. So I mean, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
I don't have 100% to give anymore. Those are the words of former Olympic and Commonwealth Games medalist Jack Carlin after announcing his retirement from cycling. Well, in a glittering career, the 28-year-old represented Team GB and, of course, Team Scotland, and says it was a difficult decision to hang up his bike before next year's Commonwealth Games. Ronnie Charters has the story.
He wore the saltire with pride, but now professional cycling is in Jack Carlin's rear-view mirrors. After nearly a decade at the top of the sport, the 28-year-old has called time on his career, but is confident he's made the right decision.
The sport that I'm in, you can win or lose by 1,000th of a second. And you have to be 100% there and ready to give it your all. And the truth is, I've not got 100% to give anymore. I don't have the motivation and the desire to do that.
And this is the medal-laden career he leaves behind. A two-time Olympic silver and Olympic bronze medalist. He also won 2 Commonwealth silvers and a bronze, as well as countless world and European medals. But with the Commonwealth Games next year coming back to Scotland, was Carlin tempted to make Glasgow 2026 his swan song?
To go to Glasgow with a Scotland flag on my back, I would have to have known that I'd gave 100% going into it and confident that I was going to do the jersey justice and myself justice. And I think at this time I don't have that. So I'm hopefully going to be inspired by the next generation of cyclists and see what they can do.
Ronnie Charters, STV Sport.
And just before I go, there had been fears for the future of the Commonwealth Games, but good news, the host city for 2030 has been announced. Well, the Indian city of Ahmedabad has been selected to host the Centenary Games 100 years after the first. And in Ahmedabad, the Narendra Modi Stadium, the biggest in the world, and it has a capacity of, get this, 132,000. Well, that's all from me. Chris will be back tomorrow. Have a good evening.
Your window to sport. CR Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Well, it's been a beautiful day in Aberdeen today. Can we have more of the same, Sean?
I can see what I can do for you, but the good news is the weather's not going to change too much in the next couple of days. But have a look at this satellite image here. You cannot see Ireland, you can't see Wales, you can't see England, you can't see central and southern Scotland, but you can certainly see us here in the north. Plenty of blue skies around today, stretching all the way from Skye across the Highlands, Moray, Aberdeenshire, Angus, and top temperatures. We've been the warmest part of the UK, as well as the sunniest, with highs today in Aberdeenshire up to 16 degrees, the same also in Tain, that's the low 60s in Fahrenheit. So enjoying lovely blue skies, but with the clear skies tonight does mean it's going to be a wee tad chilly in some spots too. Let's look at your forecast.
An icy start to the day will give way to a series of oohs and ahs. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, there's not much going on in our map here across Tayside tonight. Of course, we've been right in that big break in the cloud cover. Lots of clear skies through tonight. We started with some patches of cloud across Fife earlier on, but most of that's cleared away as well. A little bit of mist, maybe a few wee fog patches developing in 1 or 2 spots as well, but quite a cool night, as you would expect, given the fact we've got those light winds. You've got the clear skies. Widely, we're into single figures. Your bottom 6 tonight, though, well, it takes you all the way down to Aberfeldy. 2 degrees tonight. Crieff and Ailith, 3 degrees as well. So a chilly night, maybe just a wee touch of frost in 1 or 2 of our Perthshire glens. And as I say, poor visibility in 1 or 2 spots as well. A little bit of mist and fog, especially maybe parts of Fife and just north of Dundee into tomorrow morning. That clears away, and then tomorrow, well, it should be another fine day. We are in this very, very gentle south to southwesterly airflow, which means we are in the most favoured spot for some breaks in the cloud cover. So again, hopefully some sunshine. Lawrencekirk, your top spot tomorrow, 13 degrees. Feeling pretty nice with the light winds in that sunshine tomorrow. We start to see a wee bit of a change towards the end of the week. Now, I think on Friday, just given the gentle easterly this time, it's here. We're most likely to see the thickest cloud on Friday, but still mostly dry. Best of brighter weather in the west of the country. Hopefully brightness around on Saturday, turning a wee bit breezier around the Fife and Angus coast, turning a lot more changeable later on Sunday. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And that's where we have to leave it for this evening. I'll be here again with the late news just after 10:30. Have a good evening.